introduced, and I know some of you already, but I don't know all of you, so I want to get to know you just real quickly, real briefly. I probably won't have time to get to know all of your names, so let me just ask a couple questions. Does anyone in here have a name that is really hard to spell? Like anytime anyone tries to spell your name, they spell it wrong. Raise your hand if you have a name that's hard to spell. Okay, I see. Kendall, is that right?
Kendall, K-N-D-A-L, 1L.
1L. Oh, it's the double L that throws people off. What's yours? Oh, okay, yeah. And what do they do with the I a lot? Oh, yeah, I'm sure, right? Penny. That's not even close. Yeah. Okay. Thank you.
Russell Ricks, and my first name, for some reason they want to end it with an E.
Oh, weird. Yeah.
R-U-S-S-L-E.
Right.
What?
Oh, interesting. I would think the S's and the L's is where people
My
get.
last name is Ricks, and I get called Rick all the time.
Rick.
I have 3 other brothers, and they don't get called Rick.
Yeah, I have that problem too. Andrew, I get brother Andrew all the time. Any other names hard to spell in the back here?
Alicia with a Y, because my mom likes cursive Y.
Cursive Y's are pretty. Yeah, I like that. And there was one more over here. Yeah.
I have a really common name. It's Rebecca, but nobody reads the first book of the Bible.
Oh yeah.
E-K-A-H.
Oh, okay,
I
so
always spell it wrong.
biblical name. I'm going to talk about that in just a second. Okay. Anybody, and this might be some similar, right? So if you haven't already shared, anybody have a name that every time the teacher got to it on the roll, you knew it was like your name because you knew that they like paused or that you knew they were going to mess it up somehow because it's hard to read. Anybody like that? Yeah.
So my name's Renee, but it's R-E-N-E-E, and they would always say
Rennie, yeah, okay, always. And so you knew it when they got to your name. You're like,
Rennie?
yes. What about here?
Oh, I was just going to say, they would always say Chase, and I'm like, there's no E in Chaz.
Oh, yeah. Chase Chaz, okay, I like it, yeah.
Not that I'm from school, but my married name, William, for some reason. People
William.
just stare at it and say G. Williams.
Yep.
They just say, how do you pronounce it? That's what I get all the time.
You're not related to an Ezra, are you?
Not that I know.
I taught with an Ezra William, so that's how I would know how to say it right. So, yeah. Any others hard to spell? How about this one? If your name is just so common, just like everybody else and their dog has your name, raise your hand. I want to hear a couple of the common names here. Yeah.
Julie. It was in the 60s, very common.
Very common. Lots of Julies. Okay, I like it. Any others? Yeah.
Smith.
Oh, yeah. That's like number 1 right there.
My middle name's John. I'm a Gene.
Right?
Yeah, so,
John
I'm just one
Smith.
of the Smith boys.
Beautiful.
Many of 'em.
I love it. Yeah. Any other common names? Emily. Oh, yeah. I know a lot of Emilys. Yeah, Rick's again. Okay, here, last one. Does anyone in here have a name that because of it, your gender has been confused on multiple occasions? Any gender? Oh, Kendall. Yeah, there we are again. Any other gender neutral names out there? Just me and you, Kendall. Renee. Okay, yeah. What's in here?
I did not think my name was gender neutral ever. My name is Aspen. It's unusual.
Yeah.
But last summer I had a boy who's 14 knock on my door and introduce himself as Aspen, and he was doing something in the name.
Interesting.
We stared at each other like, what?
It is weird. It's a weird moment when you meet someone with the same name, isn't it?
I've never, ever anybody else my name.
Yeah.
But to have a 14-year-old boy, I'm like a 40-year-old woman. We were just like thrown off.
Yeah. Okay, story time. So once I was hanging out at a BYU sports camp, and they had a dance one of the evenings, right? And I remember I saw this girl across the way. And, we made eye contact, and I knew. And so I was making my move, making my way in. And as I got to her, I looked down, just kind of glanced down at her name tag and saw her name, and it was spelled exactly the same way as mine. And so I got to her, and I just, paused. And I just, sat there looking at her for a second, and she, looked up at me, and she's like, "Are you okay?" And then she saw my name. And she was like, "No way." And I'm like, "Yeah. You want to dance?" And she's like, "Sure." And so we got up, and I was like, "Hi, Kori." And she's like, "Hi, Kori." It was really weird. we finished the dance and then walked away and never saw each other again. Okay, oh, I did it again. Okay, so that's one awkward experience that I've had. I didn't really think that my name was gender neutral. I think that moment was where it like really came alive for me. And then I started having all kinds of crazy experiences. Like a couple weeks later, I was at the doctor's office, and this must have been a HIPAA violation of some kind, but the nurse comes out and was like, "Hi, we need a pregnancy test for Kori." And I'm like sitting in the corner of the waiting room like, "What are you doing?" And she's like, "Kori," and I'm like, "Present." And she's like, "Oh." And she looks down at her clipboard and she's like, "I'll tell the doctor." I'm like, thanks for that. Another moment I had was when I was teaching at Education Week at BYU for the first time, and I was super excited about that. You know, this young guy teaching Education Week. And so I was walking up into my first class, and they had those really nice volunteer ladies there, and they were having a secret conversation with their backs to me, and they were looking down at the table. And so I kind of walked up close so I could hear what was going on. I was creeping on them. And they were having this conversation about the next presenter. And they looked down, they said, "Who's our next presenter?" And they said, "Oh, it's this Kori Andrews person." And they proceeded to have a conversation on whether I was a boy or a girl. And so I just kind of sat back and listened as they were talking about my gender. And they said something to this effect: "Well, it's spelled with a K and ends with an I, so it must be a girl," right? So they were expecting a middle-aged woman. And at that moment, I said, "Hi." Hi. And they both turned, looked at my face, looked at my name badge, back at my face, and said, "It's a boy!" And I was like, "Hey!" We had a little party. It was cool. It was like my birthday. And that was a lot of fun. And so there's been some awkward moments in my life with my name. Can I tell you one more? Well, maybe two more. Okay, one more. Eventually, I went to my parents, and I was like, "Why did you name me this way? Did you not want me to have friends?" And they said, no. And they got all excited, like parents do. They're all excited. They're like, "We've been waiting for you to ask." And I'm like, "Okay, stop being weird." And then they said, "It's scriptural. We found it in the scriptures." Yeah. Rebecca, yeah. So I knew it was a trap, right? They just wanted me in my scriptures, and it worked. And so I'm like there looking for myself. I'm like, who am I? Am I like Moses' best friend? Who am I? And couldn't find myself forever until I did, is in the Book of Mormon. And I found myself, and I was a little surprised, to say the least. Some of you are already thinking it in your mind. It was Korihor. And the only place I saw Kori spelled that way was Korihor. And so I went back to my parents, and we had a little talk. And I said, "What in the world?" And they said, "No, we meant the other one." And I'm like, "What other one?" They're like, "Kori Andrews." "Oh, the one who destroyed all the civilization, right? Like that one?" And they're like, "No." "Oh, Kori Andrews." I'm like, he's not good either. So lots of therapy. I'm kidding. But I've learned to love my name. I think there's something powerful about name. I want to talk a little bit about names and titles, and there's some significance there. I love that a lot of you are authors, right? And one of the coolest parts, I would guess, of being an author is putting your name on your book, right? And that's you. That's something you've created, that and you think about a lot of the most important things we do in life. They involve our name, right? You graduate from high school, you walk across the stage, what do they say? They say your name. You get married, and what is one of the first things they say? They say your name. If you do things in the church, right? In the church, a lot of times names are involved. You take names to the temple, right? And some of those people haven't heard their name said for hundreds of years, but yet a 16-year-old priest totally butcher it in the temple. And it's just, there's something powerful about names in your name. One thing unfortunate about my name, one more story. Okay, then I'll get in. I'm sorry, I gotta tell this one. So one time, a couple years back, I was at Niagara Falls. Anyone in here ever been to Niagara Falls? We were doing a church history tour. I was hanging out with Hank Smith. And he's a nice guy, except when he makes fun of my name. Then he's a punk. And he was making fun of my name a little bit, and as we were walking through Niagara Falls, and he had just bought some sodas that will remain nameless, but they were the ones with the names on them, so you'll know if you know. He pulled one out. He said, "Let's find you a good manly name. You want a soda, Kori?" And I'm like, "Sure." And he pulls one out, and it was something manly, like Rick, yeah? And I was like, "Sweet, Rick." And he handed it to me, and I was like, "Thanks, bud." And then he reached in his bag, and he pulled out his. And he said, "Oh, I got stuck with Leslie. And then I turned to him and I said, Hank, I think we know each other well enough now that it's time you know Leslie's my middle name. True story. Leslie is my middle name. So if I do become write a book one day, I can't even do like the, initial the girly name and then I can't do it. That's okay. I'll deal with it. K.L. Andrews maybe. I don't know what we'll go with. But anyways, that's me. This is my sweet family. I'd tell you more about them, but I want to get to well, let me tell you about them. They're so amazing. This is my wife, Katie. She's amazing. She's from St. George. I bet it's not snowing there. And this is my oldest, my 7-year-old, Callie. She turns 8 next year, and she's super excited about that. She set a goal to read the Book of Mormon this year, and that's been a lot of fun. Caitlin is my 5-year-old over there, hugging mom's leg, and then I'm holding Kayla. She's our 3-year-old, and then we have Kennedy. Kennedy is our little baby. And don't tell anybody, but we're having a 5th child. I wasn't supposed to say that. My wife's going to kill me. Okay, but moving on. And it will, unless it's a girl. We're running out of K names for girls. Send all the boy vibes, okay? Because we got lots of K names for boys. Anyways, okay. Let's talk about Facebook for a minute. I've been asked to highlight Facebook a little bit because that's my bread and butter. That's a place that I've come to love, though I did in it at first. And I'll tell you a little bit about that here in just a minute. But Facebook really, in a real way, is taking over the world. And a lot of people, I hear a lot of people saying Facebook is dying, but here's a recent statistic for you. Worldwide, there are over 2.5 billion monthly active users, MAU, for December 2019, so 2 months ago, right? This is an 8% increase in Facebook year over year. This is compared to 2.38 billion monthly. Other just quick thoughts here. Some of these are a little bit older. For instance, this one, average time spent per Facebook visit is about 20 minutes. So not only people visiting there frequently, at least monthly, but they're spending time there when they're there as well. Here's another one. 1 in 5 page views in the United States occurs on Facebook. That one's kind of crazy. And this one's a little bit older, so it might be a little less than that, or maybe even more. I'm not sure, but that's an interesting stat. Here's another one. Facebook users watch over 1 million hours of video every day. Video, I want to highlight that a little bit because that's what I do, a little bit of Facebook video. So I'll talk about that a little today and highlight that. And then last one, which is kind of interesting, 5 new profiles are created every second. What? 5 new profiles every second. So again, it's growing. And those profiles, more and more people are joining Facebook and interacting there. I went to look just to see if I could find any other Kori Andrews, plural, on Facebook, and I did this earlier today, actually. I just kind of looked through and look at all those girls with my name. I had no clue. I used to think Kori was a boy name. And then I did find, you can't see it, but there's this guy in California. He's a model in LA, and I was like, me and him, we should be buds. So there are, but like I just kept scrolling. There were so many Kori Andrewses, and I'm one of them. And so lots of profiles being created every day. So the message I'd like to share with you is how to use Facebook to share your authentic message. I'm gonna say this multiple times, but it's because I truly believe it's true. You have an incredible message that needs to be shared. And your message, I believe, can change the world, whether that's your story or a story you've created. But I also think, right, as I think of how we can influence and change the world, that we have to. It's not just something, it's not just if you want to get involved, you can. It's something that needs to happen. And that's kind of where my story begins. A couple of years back, I just got hired as a full-time seminary teacher for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And that was my dream job. In fact, kind of crazy story. It didn't look like it was going to work out. I was up in Idaho at the time, and they actually told me no, that they weren't going to hire me, and I was devastated. And they had always said, it's really competitive, so make sure you have a backup plan. Well, I didn't have a backup plan, and so I was devastated. And some miracles happened, and they ended up having an opening in Springville, Utah. They called me up on a Saturday morning and said, "Hey, will you move to Springville, Utah?" And I said, "Yes, it's my dream job. I'm there." And they thankfully, I got that opportunity, and I just started teaching. I was loving every minute of it. But I felt like something was missing in my life, and I wasn't sure what that was. Somehow, through some crazy avenues, I was attracted to some friends who were involved on Facebook. And when I first met them, they were doing different things on Facebook, creating video, most of them. And when I first met them, I kind of thought, this Facebook thing is kind of a waste of time, isn't it? The social media, you just get on there and you waste your life away. And so I asked my friends, like, why do you spend so much time there? And a couple of them did it full time, and that was what they did. And they said, well, I'm there because others are there, and I can be successful in my business. But even more than that, these people who were involved on Facebook and doing things there, they said that Facebook, they felt called there, that was where God needed them to be. And as they shared these things with me, I felt a similar call. And again, I thought Facebook, social media, that type of stuff, just a waste of time. Why would I be there? I don't have anything necessarily to sell. But I felt like God was saying, you need to get involved. And so tip number 1 today that I want to share with you is dare to step out of your comfort zone. I think social media and being on social media was a little bit outside of my comfort zone. And what if I told you being awkward is the right thing to do? If you can't see that meme, that's what it says. But I knew that it was going to be awkward and that I wasn't going to be good at it at first when I jumped on social media, specifically on Facebook. But I felt like it was what I needed to do. So my challenge to you is, even if it feels awkward, do it if it's the right thing. And jump in if it's the right thing. And if it's what God needs you to do, He's going to help you every single step of the way. And I believe that because He did that for me. So I had a couple ideas. Some of them were good ideas. Some of them were horrible ideas. So I went to my friends and I started kind of chatting with them about these ideas and throwing ideas of how I could share goodness. That was my goal. I didn't have anything I wanted to sell, but I wanted to share something good and uplifting online. And some of the ideas, my friends thankfully were honest with me and said, that'll never work. But one idea that I had a buddy, he said, that could maybe work. And I said, maybe? So you're telling me there's a chance? Okay, I'm going to go and figure this out. And so I just started reading everything I could on how to do well and be successful and asking my friends these questions. And then I did something a little bit more out of my comfort zone. We got a pretty solid tax return that year. And my wife said, let's put that in savings. And I said, no, let's buy a camera. And she said, you're crazy, but I'm crazy about you. And I said, I know. Anyways, and so she let me buy a camera, and I was super excited about that. So we went out and I bought this camera, and I got it, and then I was like, cool, I got a camera. Now what? And so I decided I wasn't ready to be in front of a camera. Like, that wasn't really my thing. And so I decided, you know what, I'll interview people. One of my buddies, he did run this program called Prepare to Serve. Now it's called Lifey. And that's what he did. He interviewed returned missionaries, and he would ask them about their mission. He created this huge library. It's got over 10,000 videos of returned missionaries talking about their missions. And I thought, that's cool what you're doing. I want to do that, but I want to interview like really, really cool people. And not just returned missionaries. So I started to think, I created this list in my head of the coolest people I could think of that I'd love to interview. And Mother's Day was coming up soon, and so I thought, I'm going to create a Mother's Day video, because who doesn't want to talk about their mom, right? And so I had my camera, I had it set up in my house, and I reached out to probably 50 people that I thought, man, they'd be fun, and we could create a video. I thinking that I would hear back from 5. Out of these 50 incredible people that I reached out to, I ended up hearing back from almost 30 of them. and said, yeah, we'll be a part of your cool, video that you're putting together. And I thought, sweet, right? This is going to be awesome. It's going to take off because there's all these cool influencer people. They ended up coming over to my house. Saturday's Warrior had just come out, so we had some actors from that. We had some people from Meet the Mormons. We had some a comedian and a couple other just fun people that I thought this was going to be awesome. And some YouTubers. And we had them over to my house. We interviewed them. I asked them way too many questions about their mom, and they all answered them really well. And then I ended up with all of this content, like hours of content that I was going to try to turn into a 5-minute video for Mother's Day. And seriously, friends, I spent probably 80 hours in about a week editing this video while working full-time. So it was just nuts. My family didn't even see me that week, and I was just editing this video because I had to have it done by Mother's Day and trying to put it together, and ended up putting it together. It wasn't great. I didn't have any background in camera work or editing skills or anything. That's why it took me so long. And but I put together this video and posted it online and thought, I'm never going to do that again, and because it was just so intense and took so much time. But then Father's Day was coming up, and I felt bad about dads, and I don't want them to feel like they're getting left out, and so I thought I'll create a video for Father's Day, and then I'll be done, and then I'll have done what God wanted me to do, and putting out some goodness. So I reached out. This time I was like, I can't interview 30 people though, so I got to interview. I just got to keep my interview pool smaller. So I reached out to 5 of the coolest dads I could think of, and all of them got back to me. And I got to go interview, well, not all of them. I guess I reached out to probably 10, and about 5 of them got back to me. And I got to go interview some of my heroes at the time that have now become some of my good friends. I interviewed a guy named Brad Wilcox. I interviewed a guy named Hank Smith that I mentioned earlier. I interviewed Ty Detmer, who was coaching at BYU at the time, and got to interview just some amazing dads. And I asked them the question. I kept my question shorter this time too, and I asked them the question, why do you love being a dad? And I just had such an incredible experience meeting with some of these heroes of mine, people that I didn't think that I would ever really associate with, who willingly came over to my house and let me talk to them for a little bit about being a dad. And I realized that God had asked me to do this not only to share goodness and to bless other people's lives, but that He needed me to learn some things too. And I came out of this experience so inspired to be a better father, like these heroes of mine. And because of that, I thought, maybe I can do one more video. And so I did Mother's Day, I did Father's Day, and then I was like, okay, I'm going to take a break. And because of some friends that I had, I ended up connecting with some people at the church at Bonneville Communications, and got to attend an event there where they were talking about the first ever Light the World program. And I thought, okay, this is going to be a lot of fun to get involved with Light the World. And I'll talk about that here. Is that my next one? Hold on. I don't know if I ever said what the name of the program was. I called it Happily, whoops, let's go back here. I called it Happily Ever After Project. And that's the name of this first program that I set up and created these videos. And people were seeing them, but not a lot. But that was okay because of the inspiration I was feeling. Anyways, Bonneville Communications came to me and they said, hey, we love the videos that you created. Would you create one more? And I said, yes, that's all I got left is one more. I'll do one more video, and then I got to take a break because I'm going to start a master's program. And they said, okay, and what would you like to do to support Light the World? And I talked with a friend of mine named John Dye, and we kind of threw some ideas back and forth. And I decided if the initiative was Light the World, that I wanted to align with it as much as possible, so I'd create a video called Lighten. And using that as the theme, I would reach out to some people that had been through some really hard or difficult things in their life and ask them questions about their experience and how that hard thing that they'd went through had been lightened by Christ. And I love the dual meaning of that, right, of lighten. Anyway, so I started reaching out to people, and I ended up having 4 incredible people get back to me. One of them was Paul Cardall, the world-renowned pianist, and a couple other incredible people. And I felt like there needed to be one more. And so on a whim, I reached out to this guy named Richard Norby. Richard Norby was one of the one of the missionaries in Brussels, Belgium, when the bomb went off in the airport there. And this was, when I reached out to him, it was 6 months after this had happened. So I hesitated for a minute thinking, oh, it's too soon, right? He's not going to want to talk about this. But I had that feeling, right? And I followed that prompting and ended up getting in contact with him. And he said, Kori, I don't usually do stuff like this, and I don't really want to in the future, but to support Light the World, I want to do this. And I said, sweet. And so Richard and these 5 or 4 other incredible people came over to my house. And this was another life-changing experience for me as I heard their stories and the hard, difficult things they went through. One of them struggled with anxiety and depression and bipolar disorder and pretty severely. And another one of them had broken his back and was a paraplegic, right? And as I asked them questions about their experiences, again, I felt this feeling that God didn't want me to just be a tool to share light with others, but He wanted to lighten my life. Little did I know that I was going to go through some hard things that I needed from this experience of trying to share goodness. So we finished that video. It went super well. And Mormon.org was generous enough to share it on their Facebook page, and it was just a sweet experience. But I was kind of burnt out. I was kind of like, okay, that was a crazy year. It was a lot of fun, but I got to take a break. And then in January, after Light the World was over, Richard Norby's son, who had actually come to my house with his dad, reached out and said, Kori, I know you said that was your last video, but we do one more. And I said, oh, no, I'm not going to do one more. And he said, please. And I said, what are you thinking? And he said, I was wondering, the year anniversary is coming up in March or the commemoration of when the bomb went off in Brussels, Belgium. And I was wondering if you would interview Richard Norby's grandkids, our kids, to ask them what they learned from that experience. And I thought, I don't even like kids. No, I didn't say that. I said, I think that sounds hard, right? Kids. I've never interviewed kids before. And again, I'm not good at camera work. How am I going to get kids to sit still and talk about their grandpa? And he said, will you just give it a shot? And I said, okay. And so I ended up having this sweet experience of going over to Richard Norby's son's house and setting up my camera and then having the kids. I don't know why, but I started with the youngest, 2 little 4-year-olds that were bouncing off the walls and being all crazy. And I remember thinking, this isn't going to work. And I'll show a clip from this video here in just a second, because I just thought, they're crazy. It's not gonna work out. But then as I got further and further along, and got to the older and older kids, I started having these really sweet experiences until we got to the 16-year-old. And she said something like this. She said, you know, I didn't believe in God. I didn't want to go to church. I didn't want to go to seminary. And I was in a very, very dark place. And then we got the call that my grandpa had been in this accident or in this bombing. And she said, for the first time ever that I can remember, I dropped to my knees and I said a prayer. And for the first time ever that I can remember, I felt like God was there. And she shared that experience with me. And I remember, again, feeling this powerful, like God was teaching me through this. And I want to share a clip. I'll come back to these ideas. This is that video with those kids, and I'll tell you why. There's a reason, there's a purpose behind why I'm telling you this story, and I'll get to some more tips here in just a second. I'll tell you why after we watch this video of these kids talking about their grandpa. It's pretty short. Here we go. Where do I do it? This one?
Yeah.
Sorry.
They were serving a mission for the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Teach
It
people
is.
about the gospel and bring them closer to Jesus Christ.
He was taken to a missionary to an airport.
There we go.
And a bomb went off. He just wanted to go help others, but he couldn't get up.
He had like shrapnel all over and broke a lot of things, his foot and legs that just got destroyed. And he was hurt and injured, but he said that he had like a feeling of peace and he knew he was going to be okay and stuff.
And we prayed for his leg. And then it made his leg feel better.
Yes, I believe in miracles. Like, he healed so quickly. It's just unbelievable. He's always been happy. I don't think there's one moment where I've seen him not happy. I think I've come to better understand the atonement and how he suffered for our sins and afflictions and pains. I learned that if you have faith in God, and if you pray, you can get through anything. If you just believe in Christ, just forgive. Don't hold on grudges. I've learned that whatever happens or whatever trials, that we can learn from it, and they're there to help us learn and grow. You are the strongest person I know. You helped me realize how much God does really love me. I was struggling before, but nobody ever knew it. And after I found out that you hurt, that feeling of the Holy Ghost came over me, and I knew for sure certain that the church is true. And if you hadn't gone through that, I don't think I would know by now. You really have helped me, Grandpa. I'll be forever grateful for that. I'm grateful for you, and that you are such a good example to me of being forgiving and caring and having hope, and just being a great example, and being able to strengthen my testimony, help me come closer to my Heavenly Father.
I'm grateful that you're alive.
You were really brave, and I love you so much, and I'm really grateful for you and that you're alive. And when I think of a superhero, I think of you. I love you.
I love you, Grandpa. I love you.
I love you, Grandpa. I love you very much. I will never forget this.
Do you want to serve a mission one day, Nick? Yeah? Where do you want to go?
Brussels.
All right, friends, thank you for letting me kind of share that part of my story. I think the best part was sharing that with Grandpa Norby, and just his thank you message. And I learned so much from those kids, and I'm so glad I did one more edited video there. And some of the things I learned from these kids are that everyone has a powerful story or a powerful message that they can share and that will uplift and help people. I wasn't sure what these kids would have to offer, but they offered so much to me and to their grandpa and to those who were able to see that video. And I around the same time, I attended a meeting where the matron of the City Center Temple was speaking, and she said something that really stood out to me. She said, "It's our stories that connect us with each other, and it's our stories that connect us to God." And I remember that just really sticking out to me, that our stories are powerful, and that and we hear them, right? We hear them sometimes in church, but what if we use social media to share some of these incredible stories that people have? And so though I was starting a master's program, and though we just had our third kid, I felt like there was something more that I needed to do. I needed to continue to share online, but I knew I had to change avenues, change my tactics a little bit. And some of the things that I learned from this first experience with Happily Ever After project here is that effective collaboration can be huge. For instance, I wasn't the one on camera. I reached out to these people, and I was amazed by how many people were willing to help a good idea. And I'll talk more about ideas here in just a second, but as we come up with ideas that are powerful and influential, and that I think another helpful thing that I'll talk about in a second is connecting with initiatives, that those ideas can inspire people to want to help out. I had no following, right? When I started reaching out to the people, I had zero following. I wasn't barely even on social media when I started. But because I reached out and I asked, people said yes. And so another thought connected to effective collaboration is don't be afraid to ask. Now, again, don't over ask or bug people too much. All right, we want to be respectful of others. But I believe that there are people out there, if you're looking, that you can find that want to help you and that will give their time and resources to bless you. So find those people, connect with those people, and then create something inspiring with them that can help and lift others. Let's see if did I miss anything. Consider also simple ways that you can give back to them, right? To help them. and look for ways that you can work together and lift each other, like these kids who were working together for a snow day when they piled up the snow on the school doors. Another thing that I learned is this idea of aligning with initiatives. The first video I did aligned with Mother's Day, second one with Father's Day, right? There's these times and these initiatives that people care about. As we align with those initiatives, maybe that will make them more interested or willing to be involved and to help us out. So look for initiatives that other organizations or programs that are doing that you could align with. And then align with those and ask and invite other people to join you. Now make sure that they do align. If they don't align, like diabetes and McDonald's, right, then that makes it a little bit harder, right, for you to fit it in. But find those initiatives, those programs that you could work with in helping help share powerful messages that you have. So that's tip number 3. Then we already, let's see, I might have to skip past this. Tip number 4. This is the meme that my wife told me not to share with you guys, but I did anyways. I don't know if you can see this, but this guy has a tattoo of arms, and he's holding, I don't know, he's like a flying bag of some kind. I don't know what he's doing, but he got a tattoo, and I thought when I saw this, he probably should have asked somebody if that was a good idea before he got that tattoo. I mean, it looks cool, I guess, but the ideas that we have, I think it's a good idea for us to run them by other people and to test those ideas, right? Make friends and network with those that you would like to collaborate with, and then share ideas and look for ways to lift each other. Sharing those ideas can help you change them and develop them into something even better than you could on your own. So when I was deciding that I had to leave Happily Ever After project, kind of, and move on to something new, I shared an idea with a friend. His name's Conlon Bonner. He's a member of the Bonner family. You may have heard of them. And I was teaching seminary with him at the time, and I said, hey, I got this idea. What if we shared like some of the messages that we have as seminary teachers, and what if we just started sharing them online? Just quick, short, little, like 5-minute messages. And he thought, wow, that's a great idea. And he really inspired me to move forward on this. I'm grateful for him and his willingness to say, hey, that was a good idea. I'd shared other ideas with him that he didn't like. But he liked that one, and he encouraged me to do it. And thankful for a good friend like that who did that for me. He ended up saying, well, how can I help? And so I got him and 4 other friends of mine and 5 guys, right? And I said, hey guys, I have this idea. How could we make it something that would work and that would be beneficial and that would help other people? And we met together at my house on a Tuesday. We got tacos and sat there and talked about how we could uplift people on social media. And this idea of just, sharing a message from seminary broadened, right? And I shared experiences I had of all these people that have incredible messages. What if it wasn't just us sharing messages? What if we invited other people to share messages? These short, uplifting, helpful messages that invite people to do good. And thankfully, they loved that idea. Well, we jumped right into that idea and started High Five Live. We thought a lot about the title or the title for our page, and ended up with High Five Live. We wanted it to be something inspiring and uplifting, kind of like a high five. And then we wanted to try to do it every day. Now that was a little bit ambitious, right? To try to post a video every day. And so I thought, why don't we use live video? There's a couple of benefits of live video here that I want to talk about. Actually, let me skip forward to live video here. Here we are. There's some pros and some cons to live video, and I thought I'd share some of these with you real quickly. So live video, production cost is minimal, right? You can do live video from Facebook from your cell phone, right? You can just whip out your cell phone, go to your Facebook page, or even your Facebook profile, click go live, right, and you're there. And so that was nice. Production cost being minimal, not having to buy extra equipment, that was nice for us poor seminary teachers. Then another thought is no editing, right? I told you how many hours I spent just editing these videos. Partly my fault, right? And partly that I didn't have any experience, but I spent hours and hours editing these videos and thinking, how could I simplify this? I would create so my first video was 5 minutes long. I think it got something like 15,000 views, right, with these 22 people that I had. And I thought, yeah, that's great, that's awesome. We reached some people, but we've just the other day I did a video on High Five Live, and it took me probably 10 minutes of prep. It was a busy day. My family was sick. I didn't have a lot of time, but I knew I had a video that night, so I sat down for 10 minutes. Was like, what am I going to share? And I ended up sharing this message about about being on a plane and a girl crying. The girl that I was actually sitting next to was crying. It wasn't my fault. I didn't make her cry. But I shared that experience in a 10-minute video, and it got 7,000 views, which, is less than 14,000, but compared to the time I spent on that video to the time I spent on the other video, right, that's pretty minimal. So I'll talk about that more in just a second, using time wisely. Then the other one is, I already said that, can't save time. And then the last one here, pros that I thought of was enhance interaction and connection. There's something cool about being live, right? It is a little scary. In fact, maybe I'll tell you in a minute about my first live experience. Was pretty intense and pretty scary. But there's something about connection, and people love to comment on live videos. And one of the things we do on High Five Live is say, hey, where are you watching from, right? To encourage interaction and commenting. And so people jump on and they say, hey, I'm watching from, we've had people from all over the world, from Japan and from Mexico and from Bahrain even. And these people watching our videos. And that's kind of fun to see people watching from all over the world. And a great way to encourage interaction. And there's just something authentic, right, about something that's live and unedited. And sometimes, again, that can be scary. In fact, I think of one of the people we invited to share was the Mahe family, Reno Mahe and his sweet wife. And we asked them to share their experience with their 4-year-old daughter who passed away. And they got up there. When they first went live, you could just tell they were so nervous. It was out of their comfort zone. It wasn't something that they had ever done before, share a live message. And to be honest, I love them to death, but to be honest, that first minute was a little cringy, just because they didn't know what they were doing, and they kind of struggled getting into it. But then, once they got comfortable in that live video setting, they shared one of the most powerful messages I've ever heard on High Five Live as they talked about their sweet daughter and their sweet family, their eternal family. And I was so grateful that they stepped out of their comfort zone to share a message on High Five Live, and that video inspired a lot of people. In fact, we still get messages about that one today. And then here's some of the cons, though, right? And this kind of fits in with what I was just talking about. Anything can happen in a live video. That's kind of a crazy part. For instance, one time I was doing a live video with my kids. I'll show you one in just a second, but it won't be this one. I did a live video with my kids when we were first getting started, and we were talking about a scripture story, right? And we were talking about this scripture story, and they were going, and my daughter, my 5-year-old at the time, was doing great. My 3-year-old was kind of getting distracted, right? But I was fine with it. She jumped out of the camera, right? And I was just focused on making sure my 5-year-old was in it. Well, a minute goes by, and I'm not really paying attention to my 3-year-old until she starts to come back into camera view naked. I did not expect that. I was doing a live video in the middle, right? And thankfully, I pulled it up, and I'm sure the people were watching were like, what just happened, right? But I pulled it up, so you didn't see my naked 3-year-old running around, and she said, let's get in the bath. And so I had to delete that video. So anything can happen. There have been a couple of moments, right, where people have shared messages that we just didn't feel comfortable with. That's as we reach out to people and invite them to share messages, we want it to be authentic to our message and our page, and there's been a couple kind of awkward situations where we've had to say, hey, thank you for your willingness to share, but we just don't feel like this aligns with our mission, and so we're going to have to take your video down. And those have been hard moments, very, very hard moments, but thankfully those people have been very kind about it as well. So anything can happen during a live video. A couple other thoughts here. You sacrifice a little bit of quality, well, a lot of bit of quality, especially depending on your internet access, right? And so sometimes you're sacrificing quality for quantity, and we understand that we do that with High Five Live, that not every message is going to to be the most amazing or powerful, but our commitment, right, our promise is that we are going to go live every day and share a message that is uplifting and inspiring. And so because of that goal that we have and that our mission and our promise to our audience, we do sacrifice a little bit of quality so that we can do that every day. And then the last con that I was thinking of was it still does require some amount of preparation. You can't just pull up your phone like I was talking about earlier and press live. You got to have an idea of what you're going to say and what you're going to do so that it's something inspiring and uplifting and something that people would want to watch and feel like they're being helped by. So those are my thoughts on live video. Let me go back here. I know I skipped some stuff.
So you do this every day. Do you like schedule it for like a few weeks in advance so you have time to think about content?
Sometimes it's 10 minutes before, hey, we need a message tonight. But thankfully, we do have an administrative assistant that's helping us now. At the beginning, it was a little bit rocky. But this sweet lady named Pam Ackerman from Idaho reached out to us, and she said, hey, how can I help? And she very sweetly offered to be that administrative assistant that takes care of our calendar. She preps our guests now, which has made things a little bit easier, right? We have specific instructions that we send our guests. And so that makes it a little bit easier. But she's always on us. Hey, I need a month out, guys, so that we can be prepared and ready for this. And so that's what we generally try to be, is about a month out. Yeah?
Are they all local, or do you do some of them that are videoed in from, or somehow, however you would do it from some faraway place?
Yeah, as long as they have an internet access, they can do it from anywhere, which is awesome, right? So we've had High Five Lives from the Netherlands. We've had High Five Lives from Germany. We've had High Five Lives in Japan and the Philippines, right? And Hawaii. That wasn't me. I want it to be me. But we've had High Five Lives from pretty much all over the world.
So you guys go there if it's that place, or
if we're like traveling, we'll do something like that. Yeah, and we'll share. Sometimes we'll go to a temple, right, and say, hey, here's this temple. You can see it live, right?
So because it's always in the interview format.
No, not always in interview format. Generally, actually, High Five Live will do just you and your phone. Right, and you'll talk and share a message or a story. We actually, initially, we wanted to do interview format. We thought that's the way we were going to do it, but we found that it was more effective, and we were able to get those messages faster. One of the things that, we're not perfect at this, obviously, but we wanted our messages initially to be 5 minutes long, and we found very quickly that, especially for us long-winded seminary teachers who can't clear our throats in 5 minutes, that we needed a little bit more time, right? So we've kind of said 15 minutes is our goal, right, or under. And so we'll reach out to people and say, hey, can you share a short message, right? Try to keeping it under 10 to 15 minutes. But we understand that some stories, some messages just take a little bit more time, and as long as they're interesting and inspiring, then we love it. We love it. So we actually have 13 team members that kind of help us in different ways now. So it was just started with us 5, and then we added a few more people. So part of the way that we do that is we have a person who's in charge of each day, right? So my day that I help with right now is Saturdays. Well, I help with a couple different days right now, but Saturdays is kind of like my main day, and then we have people in charge of Tuesdays and Wednesdays. We've also added 2 specific programs or shows, you might call them. One is our Tuesday, we call it Temple Testimony, every Tuesday. That's around noon. And then we have a Women of Worth program that is done by our friend Gainlyn Condi, and she does that every Wednesday morning. What else here? We've done over 1,200 live messages now. So that we've done 1,200 in almost a little under 3 years. So 1,200 live messages. We have about 50,000 followers and a pretty active following there, and 15 million video views approximately. So what has worked? Let me share a couple other ideas or tips, things that as we've done these 1,200 live videos, some things that we've found that have worked to help these messages that we love get to more people. A few ideas additional to what I've already shared. We found that our when our posts are a little bit consistent, that can be helpful. Now, we're not super strict on this because we've also found that it is good to break the norm every once in a while. But our audience expects our live videos to go live every day at 7 p.m. generally. And so we try to stick to that as much as possible. The other night I had a sick family, right? So I couldn't go until later in the evening because my house was crazy that night. But that's our general, right, rule is try to do it at 7 p.m. And we've found success in that in a daily, right? We're talking about daily content here. So in our daily content, we found success in the consistent time. The next thing that has worked is avoid overlinking. Now, we understand that those who come on High Five Live to share a message or a story, a lot of times have something they want to share specifically, and maybe sometimes that's a website or a blog, or maybe sometimes it's a book, right, that they want to tell people about. And one thing that we'll let people share links every once in a while, but we try to minimize that as much as possible. One of the reasons we've decided to do that on Facebook specifically is because their algorithm wants people to stay on Facebook, right, which kind of makes sense. So if we're creating too many or posting too many links that are sending people away from Facebook, we found that those videos aren't as successful. And so I was one of the things I've heard, right, is the 70-20-10 rule, right, and 70% being original content on your page, 20% being shared content or other content that your audience might be interested in, and then the 10% rule being the 10% that you use to promote, right, or to get people to go somewhere else other than your Facebook page, right? 70-20-10 rule. Then another idea here is using Facebook groups. Now I know, I think as I came in, Valerie was talking about this a little bit, but let me just briefly hit on how effective Facebook groups have been for us. That was one of the things we did initially is join as many inspiring Facebook groups as we could find, and then we started sharing. Now, we shared every day, and so that was a lot. And so for some groups, we had to get to know them a little bit, right? The way groups work on Facebook, at least the groups that we share on work on Facebook, is it's not necessarily. Let's see, how do I describe this? A group on Facebook, right? We would share our video to their group, and those in the group would be able to see that video. If we shared too much on some groups, the group moderators would get frustrated with us, and so we had to get to know them, right, and become friends with them, network with them, and once they understood our mission and what we were wanting to accomplish, they then would allow us to share according to their rules on their Facebook group. So a couple ideas if you want to start sharing to Facebook groups that relate to your content that you're wanting to share. Make sure that it aligns, right? Make sure that you read the rules of the Facebook group so that you understand what is appropriate to share there and what is inappropriate. And then I would even, if you want to share frequently on a Facebook page, I would even maybe message them or reach out to the moderator and ask them, are you okay if I share this content to your group and those in your group? And sometimes that'll open up doors for you on like closed groups where they don't allow everybody to share, where they'll say, yes, I'll approve the things you share and allow you to reach my group with what you're trying to share. Does that make sense? I hope that made sense. That wasn't very clear, but I hope that was helpful. Last one here is titles really matter, and this specifically applies to videos, right? For instance, recently we had a young man from Springville here share a story. His story was super interesting. He initially wanted to title it, I Didn't Go on My Mission on Time. And I thought, okay, all right, that's kind of interesting. You delayed your mission. Can we think of something more interesting? And we kind of worked through it a little bit with him, and eventually we came up with this: a suit, a tie, and a DUI. And that ended up being our new title, right? If we had just posted this video with I didn't go on my mission on time, it may have done okay because it was an interesting story. He got pulled over here, maybe it was in Orem, but around this area he got pulled over by a police officer who thought his car smelled like marijuana. His dad said it was just 3 years of teenage boy and lots of mac and cheese. But the the officer was sure that this young man was hopped up on something, and he ended up arresting him and taking him to the jail. Anyways, and it became this long process that ended up making him delay his mission. Super interesting and funny story that we wanted people to hear, but we had to kind of work with that title a little bit. I'm sure grateful. That young man was actually one of my seminary students, and he did smell weird. Okay, now this is a big one. I messed that up again. Connection versus promotion. This is, again, we have a lot of people that reach out to us saying, hey, we'd like to share a message and promote something that we're doing. And we've had the opportunity to work with some incredible people promoting their programs or their blogs or their movies. We've got to work with Elder Groberg and T.C. Christensen, and we want to do that. In fact, part of the reason we started High Five Live was to let people know about the incredible goodness that is out there, right? And so we wanted to utilize or create a platform where people could come and share. However, we've realized that if someone comes on to High Five Live to share a message only to promote something, that for some reason it doesn't do as well. And if they spend the majority of their time talking about something that they're doing or something outside, that it usually doesn't go well, even if it's something inspiring and helpful. And so that really puzzled me at first, why that was. But we found that there's something about adding value, right, or giving away some value. And so what we do is, as we invite guests to come and share on High Five Live, is we say, we want to help you promote what you're doing because we love it and we believe in it and we know it's good. But we found to be most successful at promoting that, you got to give something and connect with the audience. Now, there's a couple ways that you can do that. You can share something meaningful, a meaningful story. Right? You can share a message that is powerful, something that you've learned that might help them with a problem or an issue that they're facing. You could share something relatable that they would relate to, and then you're building a connection with your audience and with our audience that would make them want more from you. And then finally, you could do something funny. Well, one of the best videos that we've ever had actually was when we reached out to a guy named Clint Pulver. Some of you might know Clint. We love him. And we did a video with him, and he shared a story about getting his mission call. I don't know why I'm talking about only mission call ones here. But he got his mission call to literally Boise, Idaho. And if you know Clint, he's just an incredible speaker and presenter, and he got on and just had me, as I was watching it, rolling. So funny. And that video itself, and this was before we even had an audience, I think that video got nearly 500,000 views. And just because it was funny, it was relatable, and he shared something from his heart. And and it wasn't to promote anything that he was doing, he just wanted to give. And so look for ways that you can build connection and add value before promoting. And maybe even, like that 70-20-10 rule that I talked about, maybe even make that connection the majority, right? And the promotion a little bit of the minority. But once you build that connection, then you know they'll want more. Okay, we talked about pros and cons of live video. Let's see. What else? I think we're to my last tip already. Man, time has flown. Tip number 5. Perfect does not always equal powerful. Here's what I mean by that. Like I shared with you, I spent 80 hours, right, or more on that first video that I created, and I learned a lot from the experience. I'm not trying to put down edited video at all. I think there's some incredible things that we can do. In fact, speaking of Clint Pulver, the most popular video that we've ever posted on High Five Live was an edited video, not a live video. The most popular video we have, I think it has over 2 million views now. Was a video that Clint Pulver had produced before we even started High Five Live and said, hey, would you share this? And we said, sure, we'll try it out. And it just took off. And that was a sweet experience to see that happen. So there is a benefit, right, on perfecting something. However, when I first started High Five Live, I noticed, like I mentioned before, that there's a gap in the time. And so if you can create something that's good and inspirational and powerful in 10 minutes rather than 10 hours, look for ways that you can utilize your time better. Again, perfect, as much of a perfectionist as I am, and that's why it took me 80 hours, is because I'm a perfectionist, and I would just move things around that didn't even matter. My wife's like, why'd you move that? I'm like, because it's got to be perfect, right? And that was my feeling. And that's why I stepped into the live videos, because of it. It really helps with my perfectionist tendencies, right? Is because whatever happens, all right? And that makes it kind of exciting and scary. All right. For instance, let me share with you one more video. I know I'm almost out of time, but I want to share with you one of the first High Five Lives I ever did with my sweet daughter. I won't show you the whole thing, even though it was pretty short, but I'll share a little clip from it. This is my daughter, Kori Andrews, and I'm here with one of my favorite people in the whole wide world. Do you want to tell them your name? Caitlin Amber Andrews, and she's here with me today. She wanted to come on to share with you one of her most favorite scriptures ever. Are you ready to share with them one of your most favorite scriptures ever?
Yeah.
Okay.
2 Nephi 2:25. Adam Father, there must be a midnight that you might have joy.
Nice. Give me a high five. That was so good. That was so awesome. Why do you like to be happy? Yeah. Do you think Heavenly Father wants you to be happy?
Yeah.
Yeah. What makes you happy?
Choosing right.
Choosing the right makes you happy. Aw, you're so sweet. I didn't tell her to say that, but she did. She's a sweetheart. Man, I look back at this video and I treasure it. This sweet girl's now 5 years old and can read. She's reading the Book of Mormon with us now, and it's so exciting. And really, I just started High Five Live so I could show off my kids, because I adore them and love them, and I'm grateful for how these short little, and you can tell it wasn't perfect. I'm like stuttering the whole time. I don't know what I'm saying or doing, but this sweet message that literally took 10 minutes to do with my daughter. Got as many views as that first video that took me 80 hours, and or more, I think. But I'm super grateful for these messages that have changed my life, and it all came from following a prompting to do a little bit of good, and I hope that you know that you have something incredible to offer the world. You have a powerful message that the world needs to hear. And I wish you luck. Good luck, my friends.
Thank you.